One of the loudest Republican voices sounding the alarms is Insurance Commissioner John King. He's warned that Republican donors and voters just aren't energized and that the party is at risk of falling behind as 2026 approaches. He joins us now. Commissioner King, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, of course, not long ago, you were a candidate for Senate. So do you worry if the party does not heed these warnings that we're seeing in this off-year elections that Senator Jon Ossoff could prevail next year?
I worry because when Republicans show up, we soundly win. We are the party of ideas. We have a plan. We're executing, and when we show up, we win overwhelmingly. We did not show up in these last two elections, and that is my call to action for not only leaders across the state, but also as a constitutional officer that's one statewide. We have to get out there and not take things for granted.
So why do you think Republicans aren't showing up? Why do you think that the voters aren't energized? Of course, these are special elections that some voters didn't even know were happening. This is not going to be the high turnout affair that midterms are going to be, or of course the 2024 election is going to be. But still, you're seeing Democrats really get out there and Republicans, at least some of them, staying home.
You know what? The Democrats showed up. They were working. They were knocking on doors. I went to the district. I talked to a couple of GOP, groups there in Oconee County and in those areas. And, just the folks were not knocking on, and I think we took it for granted. And I think we need to get our act together. We have a good plan. We have a great, but just saying that we're MAGA is not good enough. We got to show Georgia voters. I mean, Georgia's a 47-45 state. And so we can't take things for granted. When we engage, when we out there working and proposing good ideas, we win. And we just have to make that case. We can't take things for granted.
So you can't take things for granted, but so what policies do you promote, right? What new initiatives should Republicans be talking about as they head into 2026?
Well, first of all, we can't let the Democrats take affordability as one of their mantras, because they really don't have anything to offer except for we'll give you free stuff. I mean, it reminds me of living in Mexico and people offering free toasters and flat screen TVs if you vote for a candidate. They really don't have the real initiatives except for just keep on screaming affordability. Us Republicans, we actually have a track record of performance, lowering costs. I mean, right now I'm focused on lowering insurance costs, getting insurance companies to offer discounts because we passed tort reform, which was an incredibly important and significant piece of legislation that got passed last year. And so we have a track record, and we just have to tout those things and stay in the fight, not just take things for granted.
I want to get back to that litigation overhaul, tort reform in a minute. But so what should Republicans be doing to tackle affordability this coming session? Because we know that it played such a big role in the PSC flips. We know it played a role in the special election that Republicans lost up in Northeast Georgia, a district that was designed for Republican to win, because Democrats are talking about ways to bring affordability to voters should they take back control of the Georgia General Assembly.
Well, first of all, Greg, is that we have to challenge. I mean, they talk about affordability, but all they're offering is getting more free federal giveaways, propping up Obamacare, which is a dismal failure. We in Georgia have done tremendously well. Why? Because we pulled out of Obamacare. We started Georgia Access. We brought more companies to compete for business. We've tackled fraud. We've gone after fraudsters. We've issued fines against insurance companies when they broke the rules. That's how we bring affordability, and we challenge the status quo. We're just not screaming, "Oh, we get free stuff." We actually go in and doing that. But we have to be able to talk about specific strategies, not just hand wave. And I think that's what we're doing in Georgia. I know that many of my partners in the Republican Party are tackling doing away with the state income tax. That is something that is going to be a tough fight. But we have to make Georgia affordable, and I think the solutions are at the state level, not in Washington, because we see what a dismal failure that has been.
You talked about hand waving. There are some critics, including some Republican critics, who say that the push to eliminate the income tax is hand waving because in order to actually fully eliminate the income tax. You can shave it, but in order to fully eliminate it, it would take, billions of dollars in newfound revenue in order to account for the billions of dollars, I think $16 billion or so of income tax revenue that would be lost.
You know what? I would disagree with that premise, Greg, because I think, we also have to take an appetite suppressant on growing programs. I mean, the bureaucracy. Governor Brian Kemp, when he first came to office, he told state agencies, you know what? You're gonna have to cut your budget, and we did that. So the size and scope and that's the problem with the federal government. The size and scope has increased all since COVID. Well, you know what? Not every program is a successful program. For any new program, we need to start looking at cutting the fat. We have a lot of nonsense going on, not only at the federal level, but some of the programs in the state level also probably need to be curtailed. And so when the revenues are down, when people are suffering as a result of the costs of goods, food, the government has to take. We have to tighten up our belt as well. If Georgians are having to cut costs, then the government ought to cut costs as well.
Commissioner, you unveiled your own proposal shortly after that special election defeat a few days ago involving auto insurance. Can you explain it for us?
It's something that I looked at my friends in Florida. When they passed tort reform, they were very successful. But what they also wanted to make sure that insurance companies didn't game the system. And so what they did is that if you're an insurance company and you've had profits for 3 years in a row of in excess of 5%, you need to return those excess profits back to your customers. And this is a way to make sure that one side, insurance, does not game the system as a result of tort reform. And this is about keeping balance and making sure that insurance is affordable. And I think it's something that's worthy of study. And I propose that. I'm talking to key leaders in the legislature, and I look forward to those discussions as we travel across Georgia as a way. And it's not just a silver bullet. We're going after fraud. Georgia's number 3 in fraud in the nation, and we're going after fraudsters, which are the cost of fraud is being passed to every consumer across Georgia. I'm encouraging district attorneys to prosecute fraud. Metro Atlanta district attorneys have been very reluctant to prosecute insurance fraud, and I'm encouraging them because that's the way that we protect the whole community.
Democrats and others who voted against the tort reform proposal earlier this year warned that it wouldn't bring down prices, or at least not anytime soon, without meaningful insurance reform. I know there's study committees, there's other things that are going to go on next year during the next legislative session. But do you want to see action on that? Do you want to see lawmakers pass some sort of insurance reform rather than just study it?
There's a lot of great provisions. I think, for example, increasing my ability to issue bigger fines. Right now, I'm limited to $2,000 per incident. Well, that's woefully inadequate. And that's one of the parts of our testimony to the study committees. And I think there's going to be some movement from the study committee and some reforms that I think are definitely necessary. I need to be able to have the authority to issue larger fines to make sure that that's a deterrent to insurance companies that break the rules. I think it's $2,000 is woefully inadequate. I think being able to have the authority to continue prosecuting insurance fraud, which is a pass to every consumer. I think there's some great opportunities. The study committee has been very good about allowing us to testify. But we're already starting to see the results. I mean, Greg, the last couple of weeks, we've announced State Farm. We just made a release yesterday of insurance companies announcing reductions in rates. A good portion of those is the result of tort reform. And so we're starting to see that these reforms are actually helping, and we have something to show for it in Georgia, just like Florida did several years ago.
Now we're heading into an election year session, so it means that there's a likelihood that not as much, big, comprehensive, gutty bills happen. It's going to be a lot more election year posturing. We'll see, though. Sometimes we think that going into the sessions, and then a lot gets done. Are you hearing enough, though, from the candidates running for higher office? Senate, which you, of course, were an early contender for until you decided to run for re-election instead, governor, other top offices. Are you satisfied with what you're hearing from the Republican fields and those candidates? in those races?
I'll be honest. I'm looking forward to hearing more details. I'm hearing a lot about what their backgrounds and I think that's part of the normal cycle of candidates introducing themselves to the state of Georgia. I'm waiting to hear the details. But don't ever underestimate Governor Brian Kemp. Just because this is his last year, he has been tremendous. I don't think he's going to waste a session and not get some meaningful, improvements into what's going on in the great state of Georgia. I don't ever underestimate Brian Kemp.
You're a close Kemp ally, and yeah, he's going into the lame duck session, even though he doesn't like the use of those that word lame duck. But this is his last session as governor. What do you think he wants to bite off as he enters this last session?
I think he's waiting for people like myself to propose innovative, bold ideas that he can get behind. I mean, initially I had to make the case to him and many of the leaders in the state to tackle tort reform. Many governors would not have touched tort reform or civil justice reform, as we call it. But I made the case over 2 years. He got behind it, and without his help, it would have never happened. And so the amount of political capital that was spent on getting civil justice reform was tremendous. Without Governor Kemp behind it, it would have never passed. Now we have to defend those gains. If not, try to continue trying to improve the position. So we have a balanced approach. We want to make sure that people have their fair day in court. But the way that our system was in the past, it broke the back of small business leaders being able to get affordable insurance. And so getting more authorities in my office so we can hold insurance companies accountable. Again, Greg, I don't work for insurance companies. I work for Georgia consumers, and I can't wreck the industry in the process. But I'm very eager to hold these companies accountable when they abuse their authorities.
Now, in 2022, of course, you doing your successful reelection bid, you were opposed by President Trump. You've since made amends with him. You've showed up at his rallies. You're a close ally of him. But are you sensing some more trepidation among fellow Republicans as his approval ratings stall out? We've seen national approval ratings decline. Here in Georgia, we see Republicans still giving him high approval ratings, but of course, Democrats and independents do not. Do you sense a sort of distancing happening between some Georgia Republicans and Donald Trump's administration?
The ones who are serious about getting long-term reforms and long-term success of our nation are going to stay, obviously with President Trump. He's got, he's trying to end wars. He's trying to fix a broken immigration system, fixing, our economic power across the nation. He's working hard on that. And I think we can't just throw it all on the backs of President Trump. We have to come up with our own solutions, and we have a lot of work to do here in Georgia, and that's what I'm focused on. Is my piece of the challenges, helping fix our insurance landscape, making sure that Georgia communities are safer as I supervise the state farm marshal's office, and making sure that we have safe as we're going into the wintertime where our deaths as a result of fire fatalities increase. And so doing my piece is how I contribute. And I think anybody that's serious about governing and actually serving are going to stay focused on that. A lot of people, people who are not serious are going to be sticking their finger up in the air and trying to see which way the wind blows, and they're going to be going to that. But I think Georgians can see through that.
I know you want to focus on Georgia issues, but are you worried, concerned about the controversy of the day, that often Trump is instigating, right? Whether it be from a social media post or, a new proposal, you name it, right? That is causing consternation, to say the least, among fellow Republicans.
I think people who are serious are looking at the big picture, Greg. I don't focus on the social media post of the day. I think we would get whiplash if we did that, because, the opposition tends to focus more on that, on the noise of the day, than actually really getting real solutions for Georgians. And I think that's what we have to go and talk to our communities about, what we stand for and the things that we agree. And we're not going to agree with the president on everything. I know that. But we focus on Georgia and the future of our great state. And as long as we focus on that, I think we can make the case to Georgia voters that we're serious.
speaking of big picture, long view, we see you, of course, as a potential Senate candidate or candidate for higher office up in 2028. But first, we've got the midterms. You've talked about your concern if Republicans keep don't keep their eye on the ball, they could lose. John Ossoff could win, and other Republicans could lose in statewide races. What's your role going to be in this upcoming midterm? Are you going to end up endorsing? Are you going to be on the campaign trail for the Republican causes?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that I will be out there, and anybody that cares deeply about the future of Georgia has to be. This is, the opposition party has coronations, and that's what they're doing with Mr. Ossoff. We have vigorous, challenging primaries, and we're going to select the best candidate, and we're going to go out there and work hard across the state because we think we have a better vision. We have a better plan, and we're going to talk about the details. And that's what I'm focused on, is on the details. Georgia is a 47-45 state, and we have to work on suburbs. We got to work on rural parts of Georgia. We got to be talking about the whole state, not just one little corner of the state.
One last question. Are you optimistic about 2026, concerned about 2026? How do you describe your mood going into next year?
Well, Greg, I'm a former Atlanta police officer. It's part of my DNA to be optimistic. So I am optimistic because we know we have better ideas. We're not making excuses. We're focused on solutions. That's what Governor Kemp has done, and this is what serious Republicans are focused on. So I'm optimistic, but we can't. Again, we're at halftime. Now we have to focus on the third and fourth quarter, and that's what I'm focused on. And I'm going to be out there on the campaign trail making our case.
Commissioner King, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate the opportunity.
Let's take